Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it anywhere and everywhere. You can even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works.
Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today.
Then you can go ahead and distribute your podcast to Spotify and anywhere else podcasts are heard.
Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take the conversation with your fans to the next level, Q&A polls are the best way to get them talking.
With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions.
And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. We've been using Spotify for Podcasters, and we highly recommend you give it a try. Download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters and get started. Welcome back, friends. We are here with a very special guest today, Miss Joni, who has an awesome organization. One's Purpose is the name of it, and we wanted to have her on to kind of tell her story and tell the story of how she started this anti-human trafficking organization. So thank you for being on, Joni.
Well, thank you, three amazing people, for inviting me on. This is an honor, and I'm just honored to know three amazing people out in the world, trying to make a difference and shine light into the dark places. So thank you three for what you do.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Why don't we start? Because so many people don't probably even know what human trafficking is. Why don't we start with, what's kind of the definition that you go with as far as, when you have your talks, because I know you do a lot of community service work and stuff. So, how would you describe what human trafficking is?
So human trafficking is where force, fraud, or coercion is used, and when money is exchanged, a commercial sex act takes place. Force, that's pretty obvious. If someone is forcing you into a situation, it's one thing. Fraudulently, or coercing you to do something, feeding you the dreams, feeding you what you want to hear and know, and what they feel that you should know, to do things that you normally wouldn't do in exchange for money.
Well, they really throw everything out there, right? Anytime you're trying to just dangle a carrot to get somebody to go, we've talked to some people on our last couple of episodes that have said, they were trying to make it big in the world, and there was an opportunity that came up, and that opportunity turned dark pretty quick. And that seems to be how it happens. Is that what you find?
Yes. And the Romeo pimp, or, the Mr. Wonderful boyfriend, or even a friend, female friend, or male friend, they befriend you and pull you into the game that way too. So it's not just men that are traffickers, women are too.
I find it fascinating because how much do people really think about this on a daily basis? And I don't think it's very much, but if you could kind of paint a picture for us of how much of this is going on in the world, how much of this is going on locally where you're at, that type of thing. I mean, is this as big of a deal as we're painting it to be here on this show? Because we're saying human trafficking is a huge problem in our country and in the world. Are you finding that? Is that true?
Very true. And nobody wants to believe that human trafficking is real, that it's happening right here in our own backyard, in our own community, where we have big events, where we are a college town, where we have weed farms. There's a lot that goes on here that people don't know about, but they are becoming more aware. And Oregon is known as a hot spot to come because we have naive women and children here, which is sad. So that's why we like to go out and bring education and awareness to the youth and talk about it. And, on social media too, the games and things like that. But it's everywhere. And it's everywhere. And it is big. And I didn't want to believe it 7 years ago, when I started talking about it, and I'm like, human trafficking, that's a thing that happens here. Like, I was naive and I thought that only happens, it's horrible, but it doesn't happen here. It happens overseas, and that would never happen to me, and no, that is all wrong. And I learned real quick.
So what got you started in doing the One's Purpose stuff? Like, was there an event, or was there something that happened to get you started?
So I was journaling one morning, and I felt like God gave me the name One's Purpose. Every one person has a purpose, and if we all come together and do something, we can make a difference. So I'm thinking, great, we can make shirts and blogs and do, cards of encouragement. And my daughter and I would go into hospitals. We'd go around town and just leave cards of encouragement all around town. Well, then I had an experience with so-called boyfriend, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Romeo, who would do everything for me and my daughter. Clean out my garage, detail my car, buy my daughter clothes, but not me, buy my daughter a dog. Just very, very kind of too good to be true type things. And so one night he was on his way from Portland to our place to visit us, and he ended up getting arrested on the way. And he called me and he said he got pulled over, he's being detained. And I'm like, what? Being detained? For what? And then the next thing you know, the officer gets on the phone and is calling me Mrs. So-and-so. It'll just be a cite and release. You can come and get him. And I'm like, Mrs.? Like, what? And he had told his whole family that we were going to get married. I was the Mrs., the whole thing. It was a whole big story that I didn't even know about. And I just thought that, we were friends. I wasn't even ready to really date. But anyway, so then I get in the car. My daughter was 14 at the time. And there's a lot of events that led up to it. The grooming process and befriending my daughter, growing trust, and we were going to do Bible study together. And I goes, oh, what topic do we want to do Bible study on? And he says, trust. So that's, he's telling me, what he's doing. He's building our trust. So that night we get in the car. My daughter's like, no, I don't like him. I don't want to go get him, whatever. And it's like, well, just get in the car. So we get in the car. I grab the steering wheel. It's pouring down rain. And I was like, Lord, just tell me, give me a sign. What is going on? For real. My phone rings, and no lie, my phone rings. Hey, sis, we heard so-and-so was around you and your daughter. Are you guys okay? And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. Everything's fine. Bye. And I'm like, what? And I turn around. Next thing you know, his mom's calling me. Oh, honey, it'll be a cite and release. He'll be out in no time. And now, mind you, his family was planning to move my daughter and I to Texas, because my daughter was the only child and she could be around more cousins her age in Texas. We'll still move you to Texas. Everything will be okay. Now, mind you, this woman would call me, pray with me, speak in tongues, the whole thing, right? And then other family members got on the phone, and it was just very bizarre. And I'm like, I gotta go. So I go home and I'm like, okay, God, what is going on? And the next day my sister calls and she's like, I know you're a very loving and forgiving person, but did you know that he's a level 3 sex offender? I'm like, what? I'm like, I didn't even know. I'm like, what does that even mean? And his record is no joke, huge, and trafficking teenagers from 12 to 15, Washington, Oregon, California, Texas, and his mom is in on it. So it's a family business. So I just thought, like, well, I instantly started throwing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want anybody to think that I was putting my daughter intentionally in a situation. I had no idea. And if he wouldn't have been arrested, I had, DHS, the sheriff, and the police, some other law enforcement coming, thinking I was in cahoots with him to traffic my daughter. And that's what he was trying to do, was to have that image to, look like we're together, and then traffic my daughter. Because behind my back, he's showing my daughter wads of money, and, hey, you want me and my friends to come to your school? We can pick you up, bring all these fancy cars, and, and, pull in all the friends and do that. So, I was like, what? And you did all this behind my back? Like, come on. So I just instantly started like, oh my gosh, what is human trafficking? And I just started doing research after research and started reaching out to other organizations, and oh my gosh, this is a thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I have One's Purpose website. Like, I thought that was going to be for something else. I'm just going to use it. So I started sharing what is grooming, control, manipulation, trauma bonding. And I just started firing that stuff up. And again, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know the grooming process. I know the psychological manipulation that happens. And I just was sharing that stuff and sharing. I had people from all over the United States reaching out to me saying, thank you for speaking out. Here's my story. I've never shared it. Would you share it? Just don't use my name. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, it's way bigger than me. So.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to say, you mentioned grooming. Can you go into a little bit more detail of what the grooming process kind of looks like?
So befriending and building trust, that is what they all like to do, is to build your trust and to slowly break your walls down. And then, my daughter's father wasn't around. And so then there's an angle to work. So then there's that. And that's, a lot. I've done more research and more studies, and I've talked with ex-pimps, and that is exactly what they do. I was told that church girls are the coldest. So they go to church to pull the good girls. And they will sit there and they will watch all of your vulnerabilities, your insecurities. And like I said, they'll just spend time listening to you. And, you just keep talking, they keep listening, and you're like, taking notes, and I'll come back and work that angle. Oh, well, she's mad at her dad because of this. Well, I'll swoop in and I'll save the day and I'll be Mr. Wonderful, too good to be true type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like the buying of the dog, the buying of the clothes, yeah.
Yeah, paying for dinner, opening the door, walking on the outside, doing all the gentleman things. But then it got weird, like ordering for me. I'm like, I don't like that. Like, can I order what I want? Like, what are we doing here? And, we would go into places too that knew me. And then all of a sudden he's in the picture and he's saying, well, this is my soon to be wife. And I'm like, what? How did I miss that? I don't even have a ring. Like, what just happened? And they're looking at me and I'm like, what? Like, that's weird. But they're so good that they just kind of like switch gears real quick on you. It's very, the manipulation and the mind games are real. And I would always say, like, I felt, and this sounds so weird, but I felt like I was under a spell when I was around him. So.
Yeah. Wow. So then it seems like he almost tried to isolate you by, let's move to Texas. Let's get you away from your friends, your family who's here, and move to Texas where you can be around my family.
Loving.
That's seemingly now in on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you wanted a big family. Oh, yeah, I got a big family in Texas. Your daughter will have all these cousins that she can hang out with and go to school with. And, I love the sun. And, it's always sunny and warm there. And, all those little things they listen to. And then they play off of them.
Yeah. Is there any validity to, I've heard several people mention that they will purposely target somebody who doesn't have a huge support system, or like a father that's not in the picture or something like that. Those are kind of like prime targets. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, anybody's a target. I mean, my parents are still together. I have a huge support system, and this Joker still crept in, but yet everybody was like, there's something off about him. And then I'm like, oh, he's so great and wonderful. And I just feel like an idiot. But, you know, they are very good at what they do. And so, you know, I got so close, and then thankfully, you know, God snatched him away and dealt with him. And the shame, the embarrassment that I felt only going through that whole psychological thing, you know, can you even imagine that plus being trafficked? Like, that's a whole thing too, like on another level. So
It's wild how people don't even think about this. This isn't on the forefront of people's minds. I mean, we're hearing, you know, statistics, reading statistics of hundreds of thousands of children and women and men even that are going missing all over the world all the time. And, you know, we just kind of have been lulled to sleep a little bit, almost like the media is just rocking us to sleep until we just aren't paying attention to really anything. And then we're in our little slave system where we go to work and we do our thing, and then we go home and we make dinner and we play with the kids a little bit, maybe do some homework, go to bed, start it all over again, you know, and that kind of lulling people to sleep so that these nefarious actors can have their playground on the outside of our awareness. It's very crazy, and it's wild to me that we're not, now that we're waking up to this, now that we're seeing this, I'm hoping that more and more people will come out with stories and continue to send you their stories, because their stories impact other people, especially people that feel that shame that you were talking about, where you feel so dumb for falling for this, you know, you feel, but that shame a lot of times keeps people from wanting to share their story or wanting to educate and bring it to the forefront of people's mind. And so I'm glad that you're providing people an opportunity to share those messages, and by giving your story as a source of truth and strength.
well, here's the thing too, that like on that note, did you know how many people said to me, how could you let that happen to you? You have such a good head on your shoulders. And I'm like, wait, what? Excuse you? And I'm thinking, and again, I only went through that grooming process. How dare you say that to somebody who has been trafficked? Like, come on, people. Sorry to cut you off, but that just reminded me of that point too. Is like,
No, that's
so true.
That's a perfect point, you know, and people that are trafficked are, man, they're taken outside of their normal world, and they're put into a place where it seems nice at first, and then it gets worse and worse and worse until you maybe find yourself as a sex worker or all of these different things, and you don't understand why a person would be like, why did you fall for that? Because this is these people's full-time job. This is what they do. I mean, if you call me to come do something for you and it's my profession, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to bring all the right tools and blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, it's not shocking that these people can do this. This is what they do. Full time is traffic people.
yeah. And you know, you can sell a gun one time, it's gone. You sell a drug one time and it's gone. But how many times can you sell a person? Which is so disgusting. And then if you have 3 to 5 people making you that money, I mean, it's just like, what? Like, it was so hard for me 7 years ago to wrap my mind around it. And yeah.
I've never really thought about it like that before.
Yeah,
You can sell. I mean, that's why a person is such a commodity, is they're so valuable because you can sell them so many different times for a long time. I mean, people, if you take them to the brink of death and bring them back, and brink of death and bring them back, you're prolonging that process, unfortunately, to be able to make as much money as possible. It's such a sick and twisted business model that you almost can't wrap your head around the fact that it is happening. But it's happening, guys. It's happening out there every single day. She's proof. She's right here with us, telling you the stories. It's happening. And I know you've got plenty more stories, I'm sure.
And there's an app for everything, right? There's an app for ordering pizza and whatever. Well, there's apps to ordering what kind of person do you want? What kind of service do you want? Like, just not on the dark web, just out there. So it's fully accessible. And right now, the whole sugar daddy talk is going around, and I don't know, you guys have probably been hit up a few times in your in your DMs or whatever. Hey, I get those. My daughter was like, Mom, here, look, I got another one. And I was like, what? And so again, I've been talking to other survivors, and yeah, that's the new thing now. So pimps don't have to work that hard. It's the sugar daddies coming in through the social media and getting the younger kids hooked. And, you want money to play these games. Well, here you go. I'll send you this. And then, OnlyFans. There's so many different apps, and, any app where you can communicate with someone is an open door for a predator.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a similar story as you, but I do in the sense that I had a boyfriend that was very good at manipulation, pulled me away from my family, not a good human. And I saw the pimps, I saw the prostitutes, and they were using, at that time, Craigslist was a big, you put out your ad, and the amount of men, usually men, sometimes women, but the amount of people who responded to those ads was mind-blowing. I mean, so how do we stop those people from wanting those sex acts? Because then we can shut down the pimps. And, how do we stop the jobs?
Right. If there wasn't a demand, there's a demand for it. So yeah, so why? So who's buying? That's the thing. Doctors, lawyers, nurses. I know a woman who was trafficked in our area in the 60s for rent money. So this has been going, it's in the Bible too. This has been going on for a very long time. So what can we do? So we need to talk about it. We need to shine the light on it. We need to talk to our children about it. And, stranger danger, really? No, it's pretty much the tricky people. And the people that, are too good to be true or very nice, and that's sad. It's like, what? But who can you trust? Who can you rely on? But that gut feeling, Holy Spirit telling you, exit, listen to that. Don't, but they're a good person. Oh, they'll change. Oh, they didn't mean it. No, they did. They're telling you what, covert narcissists and traffickers are very similar. And they're very dangerous and very good at what they do. And the isolation, like you talked about, yeah, and they'll try to get your mom to turn on you, the ones closest to you, so that your real core, and that's your core, dissolves, but then it's just your trafficker is all that you have to rely on, because they love you, they care about you, they'll make sure that you have food and clothes, but you better not come back until you bring X amount of money.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about the drug component? Because I know that was kind of introduced a little bit too, because, you know, these people have to have a way to cope with what they're going through. So drugs and alcohol and all that stuff is fairly prevalent, because, I mean, I know Bethany had some dealings with some of that stuff, because it's like you have to numb yourself somehow. You know, you have to still sit down and eat dinner. You have to still, you know, go to the grocery store and be somewhat normal. So the only way they can do that is by, you know, numbing with medication or whatever.
So a lot of the survivors that I know were not allowed to use drugs or alcohol because they had to be able to respond quickly and be with it. And then there's others who that their trafficker gets them addicted to that and they get in that cycle. But the majority, just from my own experience that I've worked with, is that they are not allowed to have alcohol or drugs. But then once they get out the game, then that's when those problems start, because the coping and the numbing and, you know, flashbacks, all that. And, you know, another crazy part to my story that I don't really share a lot is I actually lived with an ex-pimp and his wife who he trafficked. I actually trafficked 2 women, and one of them was murdered, and he ended up marrying his now wife. They're out the game. They're doing amazing. He's a Christian rapper. She's amazing too. Their son is graduating from high school, so I'm going to that. But it's been amazing how God just has orchestrated. So I lived with them and I learned a lot. And they shared a lot with me about the life, the game. And I was like, listen, was this guy really doing, because I felt dumb, stupid, all that stuff, right? Like, how could I fall for that? Was he really doing that? And they're like, oh yeah, Jones, that's what we do. We read books in prison on how to manipulate women. And I'm like, what? And so then, you know, he was like, oh yeah, you know, your daughter, 14, that's prime age. You know, that's when we want to get them in the game and, you know, then get them addicted to the lifestyle, because then they get the addiction to the adrenaline rush, you know, and it's just, yeah. So the younger that you can get them, the more money they make, and it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild because it's international too. You know, we've got these, you know, local sex rings, but then you've got international trafficking where they're taking kids from Haiti and moving them over to here. And people are selling children. We know there's all the pedophile symbols that we talked about with Eyes on the Right, all of the Hollywood symbology for pedophilia and all these different things. It's starting to come out more and more in the news every day. I mean, they just found something the other day. It was like, I think they were organ harvesting children, children's organs, stuff like that. They just found something like that. I can't remember where it was. I think it was in Ukraine, but, you know, this stuff is happening all over the world. And we're not only talking about sex working, we're talking about, basically like slavery. And then we're also talking about, mules, drug mules, you know, organ harvesting. All of these things are really happening out there. And we, as not only people, but as Christians, should be seeking to find ways that we can help with this problem, help make our communities safer. You know, we can talk about and figure out like who are the predators in our town, and what can we do to minimize the risk? You know, who are the predators in our bigger cities next to us, you know, those type of things, and what's going on over there, and how can we safeguard our communities, and how can we stop this problem? And I know that there's a lot of people online nowadays talking about child trafficking, human trafficking, everything like that. And it's starting to come out, and people are really starting to push this message out there. But the unfortunate piece is everybody gets censored all the time, and nobody wants to hear about it. Or you're driving somewhere and you see this thing on a stall in a bathroom that says, if you're in trouble, call this number, blah, blah, blah.
Time out.
Yeah. Go
Time
ahead.
out. Has anyone called that?
No, I was just about to say, you probably shouldn't call that number. You're probably walking right into the lion's den. It's like, this is the type of stuff where we have to pay attention. We have to know. We can't be lulled to sleep anymore. We're not allowed to put our head in the sand anymore. These things are out in the open, and now we need to acknowledge them. And once we acknowledge them, then we need to go to action, because that's what Jesus tells us to do. He tells us to go to action to help the widows and the orphans. And if human trafficking was a huge thing back then, he would have said the human trafficking victims, help them too. I guarantee you, because Jesus' heart was for the children. What did he say about the millstone around the neck of the person that hurts or harms these children? There's a lot of people that are going to have some explaining to do.
Yes. And, like you were talking about being lulled to sleep, how we're just out and about at the grocery store and, what are we doing? Wherever we're at, we're like on our phone and we're all distracted and all this stuff going on. And then when COVID happened and everybody had a mask on, and okay, so are we not looking people in the eye anymore? Are we not like being sincere, and just that, being sincere and asking someone, are you okay? How are you? Just engaging with someone, like, what happened to that? It's sad. But those little things is something, because people think, oh my gosh, I got to go in, I got to do a rescue, I got to pull somebody out. No, first of all, like, pray. Prayer is huge. So pray for those that are enslaved. Pray for, for your children, for the youth, for the community, that's huge. And, get involved, volunteer, learn more, share a post. Just don't get overwhelmed. Like, it's too big and I can't do anything. You can do one thing, every day, do one thing. And that's more, more than, most people are doing.
Yeah, that's your one
days,
purpose for the day.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy how, I'm like, one's purpose. Okay, God, I'll just run with it. And do you know, I had Xfinity over at the house, and the guy asked what I do, and I told him, and he was like, what? He's like, well, how do I get involved? What can I need a purpose. And I'm like, and that's, I've had so many older people in retirement homes painting rocks or writing cards of encouragement or making blankets. Like, see, those little things, like, they all add up. So, use your gifts and talents to help the cause and help make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a huge deal.
And we do have this Saturday, and then also July 8th, we've partnered with Performance Martial Arts in Springfield with Professor Ben Baxter, and he is going to, just for one's purpose, he's, once a month going to do jiu-jitsu self-defense classes for survivors, victims, youth, whoever wants to get involved and come out and learn some jiu-jitsu and get involved and stay in jiu-jitsu and just learn those, simple things that, your body can do to help protect yourself. So that's coming up. That's exciting. Yeah. And people can get involved, even doing that, to how to protect yourself and how to talk to your kids, we can talk about that at some point too, but there are so many things. Then we're doing an outreach in Salem, July 29th, with Be Bold Ministry. They're amazing ministry. I don't know if you guys know them. But y'all should plug in July 29th too, hit the streets in Salem. We need to do that here too. Because, you know, we've been going out, holding signs, you know, that's great, bringing awareness to it. But, you know, it's time to take it back to the roots of how it started. And that was me going on the streets in Eugene, in Salem, in Portland, and reaching the people and just giving out cards of encouragement, sack lunches, talking to people. That's it. Just talking, having a conversation, and reminding people that they are loved, that they were born on purpose, for a purpose, with purpose. And, you know, you can do something and you can change your life. And, you know, if they need help, if they need resources, then boom, there we are, and we can help. So that's coming up too. So there's, you know, a lot of things that people can do. I got a whole list if somebody really wants to know. I can go to work if you need community service hours, I got you.
That's awesome.
And then also at the end of August, we're going to do, like end of the summer, August 26th, home run derby. Never been done before. It's been done in Texas a few times, but we're going to bring it up here and do it. It should be super fun. So family-friendly fundraising event. So that's coming up too. But, you know, another way to just plug in, get involved, get your kids involved. And just, that's the thing, is talk to them. This happens, you know how many times I go into middle school and high school and talking, and, you know, age appropriate, right? But they know the lingo. They know more than, you know, parents think that they do. So parents, please, 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 please talk to your kids, you know, and don't just, you know, go up to them and be like, oh, are you doing this? Da, da, da. No, just sit down. Oh, what new app do you have? How do you use that app? Oh, cool. Do your friends have that? Well, you know, and just have a conversation. I think we like overthink it and make it too hard, but just eye contact, being friendly with people, talking to our kids, like basic stuff.
Yeah, well, we used to be able to offend our children and let them know that we had a standard and that they needed to meet it. But now it's all about their feelings and their emotions, and we don't want their emotions to be hurt. We'll allow them to get trafficked on an app, but we won't hurt their feelings by taking away the app, you know what I mean? Or doing the necessary things as parents that we need to do. And I think our society has caused us to get to the point where we're terrible parents because we're all afraid of what somebody's going to say if we yell at our kids in public. It's like, no, I wish somebody would yell at their kids in public. Sometimes there's kids all over the place that are being crazy and reckless, and we need to get these kids back in line because, again, with being lulled to sleep, they're telling you how to parent based on how they want your kids to become. And so don't fall for that. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Here, why don't you train him to be a perfectly submissive person for me, and then I will pass them along the line. You know, it's like you have to let these kids know that there's boundaries, there's rules, there's all of these different things. And if your kid gets out of line when it comes to an app or all of these different things, that's your right as a parent and your duty, for that matter, to do something about it. You're not your friend. You're not your child's friend. Yes.
Yeah. That's our job, right? As parents.
That's what we're supposed to do. You know, we're supposed to be the shield in front of our child, saying nobody comes in here and messes with this child. And that goes for online, goes for the video games, goes for the texting apps, the ones that you know they have and the ones you know that they don't have. What about the phones? How many extra phones does your kid have? You know, I took my daughter's phone away one time and she had another one. And it's just like,
she had 3 other ones.
Yeah, 3 other ones. It's like, we have to be paying attention. These kids are trying to be sneaky because they want to go out and have fun, but they're going to get themselves into a situation where you're never going to see them again, unfortunately. And so what's more important? That's my message for today.
Yeah, I'd rather have my child be upset with me than not come home,
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you let your kids have sleepovers? I mean, do you really know the parents? Do you really know what goes on behind closed doors over there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad that, I guess it's sad, but it's not sad because it's been going on for a long time. So now I guess, we're more aware of it and we're more cautious, but just keep that open communication with your kids. And then, if, and please, you think that they share their social media with you, like, their Snapchat with you, no, they got like 4 others and, so, they think they're slick.
Yeah, they try. They're trying, that's for sure. Yeah. So where can people find the information to get in touch with you if they have questions about what you're doing, or, where are you out online, all of those different things?
Yeah, so as my daughter says, Facebook is for old people. We're on Facebook. So One's Purpose, ONES Purpose, and then Instagram, ONES_purpose. We're on Twitter, but it's a lot to manage all that because we really are boots on the ground. But our website, onespurpose.org or .com, either one, it'll go there.
So and that's what you need. You need somebody to manage your social media for you.
See, I got lists. So, they're like, what you gonna, you're a techie guy. Welcome. So, the website. But like I said, we're going back to the roots of more outreach and more, we got to get out here. And I took some time away from social media, and I cannot even begin to tell you, like, what God did during that time was amazing. And, 2 lives were saved. So, boots on the ground is the real deal, and what's going on in your community, because people, get caught up in the trends and the this and the that and what's happening and lulled to sleep or lost in, scrolling, and, but go out and see what's going on and see how you can just, touch one person's life that day. You may have saved somebody's life from committing suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. And you offer some other services, right, to these, because you have survivors that come to you in need and you're there for them, and you offer, I saw you offer equestrian therapy. What are some of the other things that you offer to these amazing people that have decided, you know what, enough is enough and I'm done with this life?
Yeah. So what do you need? So talking to that person, because no person is trafficked the same and no person heals the same. So, okay, what do you need? And so we will address, those needs. Do you need therapy? We have a therapist, amazing therapist. We have equine therapy. We have just, if you want to go ride horses as well, even their kids, we have jiu-jitsu, basketball, dance, art, primary care doctor, chiropractic care, massage, hairdresser. So we have an amazing team ready to, jump in and how can we help? What do you need? And we'll make the connections. And, if we don't have something, then we have resources to connect. But it is, there's no housing really. That's a whole nother story. So in the meantime, are you safe? Do we need to get you somewhere else? Well, then, that takes time too, to relocate someone, and going through that process. Through COVID, a lot of places have shut down. So we've revamped our resources and team that helps with that too. So it's just an individual basis, but we got a lot of amazing people willing to jump in and help. And like I said, if we don't have it, we'll figure it out and find it and make sure that person gets taken care of.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
It's so cool to hear that there's that resource out there for people. And I'm hoping that if there's not a resource like this in your area, whoever you are, wherever you're listening, maybe you could start one. Maybe God's putting it on your heart for a reason. Maybe you're listening to this message right now for this purpose, and all of a sudden something in your heart saying, I got to do this. Maybe it's time to step up and step out and get it done. We are the people. We are the ones that Jesus decides to use. Every time you read through the Bible, you will find God using people to further his purpose. That's how it goes. God very rarely comes down and does stuff himself. In fact, he did it probably twice in the Bible. He created, and then he came down and fixed it with Jesus. Those are the things that God has done for you. Now it's time to realize that he uses people to get these missions done, and he knows that there's a problem. He already knows that. He's wondering if you know and what you're willing to do about it. And that's for each and every one of us to answer. That's a question that we have on our hearts right now. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us some of your time to share and just, open our eyes, open our minds to the fact that this is happening, but also sharing your very real story. I know that's very difficult and impactful, but I understand what it does when that message is shared. It really breaks people's heart and lets them realize what is really going on and how close you could have come. And now your mission is that of hope and purpose and all those things. So that's so great. We're so thankful for you taking the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And if anybody, like you said, wants to start something in their area, I mean, Colorado just started something in their area. We have people in Texas starting something. So, we'll help you put that together and get it going too. So, that's one thing that God did tell me, Oregon and beyond. So, if God's speaking to you now, it's time to obey.
Preach.
Obey.
Don't get me started. I try to keep it calm.
That's awesome.
Oh, so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joni. We look forward to having you on again, maybe kind of as an update later on after the summer's over.
We just scratched the surface.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. This was just a little bit of information to get everybody's feet wet. So,
yeah.
And if you have any survivors that have a story that they want to tell, they are welcome to come on this podcast and tell their stories. That's kind of why we started this, to have other people on that we can have them share their experiences, whether it be human trafficking or they just had a Santeria guy on talking about the things that he went through. We had a Satanist, ex-Satanist on, tell his experience. If there's somebody out there that you know of that wants to tell their story, send them our way, because we're
getting fringy out here.
Yeah, we want to get their information out, because your story, like Rick said, may open up somebody's heart to want to tell their story, because there is shame and guilt, and I totally know what you mean when you say that, because I've been there. But the Lord uses us all in our unique ways. So we love you, we appreciate you. And we will link all of your information, your website, your Instagram, all that good stuff in the show notes so that people can go find you, and reach out if they want to or need help.
Or want to get to work, right? No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah.
No, thank you all so much.
Yeah, of course. All right, you guys, that has been a fun one, and hopefully you guys learned a lot, and hopefully you will reach out and contact if you have some questions or issues. So with that, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.